ruthless squad, we on the rise. Dynasty Football League, no surprise. I'm drafting like Michael, got the strategizing, making moves like Jim, ain't no compromising. Got Creed as my flex, he's a mystery man, running through the field like a part of the plan. Pam and Jim stack up points like it's nothing. Call me Dwight Schrute, undefeated, stunned. They see commissioner like Michael Sky, making sure the rules tight, no funny business plot. Got Oscar in my lineup, he's the analyst, analyzing matchups, predicting all the twists.
Draft grades, power rankings, and some drama. The Office Dynasty League podcast is back. I am Matt Jordan, and joining me is special guest Kaleb Trowbridge as we are back for the first time for the Office Dynasty podcast in a couple of seasons. It's good to be back. Kaleb, thanks for joining me for this first episode back for the rebirth of the Office Dynasty League podcast.
Thanks for having me. We've had a tumultuous eventful couple of weeks, so I can't wait to dive in on all that and give our thoughts.
I think one of the fun aspects, of the Dynasty League is that it's all year long, unless you're Mac. But for everyone else, just about it's all year long. And then the added element that all of us have done, or a good majority of us have done with Tyler's power rankings, and then John's draft grades, and now Mac wants to get involved if we ever see those at any point. And the podcast was a fun element, and so I was like, you know what, let's bring it back. It's just another thing that can keep people in tune to the league 24/7, 365, which is the best part of the Dynasty League, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's fun. Most involved league for sure I'm in by far. Sometimes that involvement spills over into drama, and so we have to remember it's all for fun at the end of the day, but it is definitely involved.
There's a lot of personality in the league, and so that makes for very fun. But it adds that drama. But the drama is fun as well, especially when you can move past it and just realize the excitement of the league. So let's look at the first thing I want to look at is the draft. I think moving the draft to when we did, having it so quick after the actual NFL draft was a good decision. I think that makes it more fun. Again, it's another element that keeps you in tuned all season long. And through the first three picks, Kaleb, it was chalk. I mean, nothing really surprised you or stuck out to you. Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. I think that was pretty easy. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, absolutely. It was knew that was coming. Just getting feelers around the league. Knew that for weeks before the actual NFL draft. The actual NFL draft didn't change anything. I didn't think it would, but we all knew that once it hit pick 4, it was going to be the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, and pick 4 is man, I hate to say this because he could be like another worldly player and like completely change an entire franchise when you look at what he could do in the NFL. But I think it might be the worst pick in the draft because you could have got him, in my opinion, 10 picks later at pick 14 if you're Ethan.
100%. If you look just at the history of the league, Trevor Lawrence was just as heralded as a prospect in a much less talented draft pool, and he went at pick 14. Granted, that was our first year doing it. We didn't really know what we were doing, but I still don't think there's a world out there in which Caleb Williams wasn't going to be there at 14. I didn't like the process of taking Caleb Williams at 4, but Ethan felt the need was there. It's just a kind of a stack of bad processing at the quarterback position for Ethan, with the trading Olave for Justin Fields, who's now a punt returner, and then using pick 4 capital to replace that. I think he could have even traded back and got some more assets, and I think there were some buyers, and he just didn't really look that hard to sell. So it was very interesting. He was dead set on Caleb Williams. It helped me out. I knew that if Caleb Williams went 4 and Brock Bowers went 5, I had those 4 receivers very close to each other, I was okay taking any of the 4. That's exactly what happened, and so I wasn't sad, but didn't like it for the team.
Well, and I think with Brock Bowers being right there, I think the difference in Brock Bowers and Cole Kmet, who is Ethan's starting tight end, is bigger than just piecing Russell Wilson and Matt Stafford together for a season instead of just having Caleb Williams. I mean, I feel like there's so much quarterback depth in our league. I mean, I'm trotting out 2 guys that could be top 10 quarterbacks. Evan will trot out 2 guys that are top 10 quarterbacks. So there's certainly some depth at the league. But hey, when you like a guy and you think he can be big for you, then you go and get him. And to trading back, I don't know if he could have done that because I tried like crazy to trade back from 5, and essentially it was the same situation for Ethan, where no one was really interested because of what you just said, where everyone else was so close right there.
Yeah, that's true as well. And so, yeah, you said, you mentioned when you like a guy, so I think that's going to kind of segue us into 6 and 7.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I picked Brock Bowers at 5. I thought it was a no-brainer pick after not being able to trade back. I tried like crazy to pick up, from you. I tried to trade Mac to try to get. I'd rather have 2 of those guys instead of the 1. But I like Bowers, and so we'll see how he pays out for me. Then you mentioned 6 and 7, and yeah, that's going and getting 2 guys that you're in favor of over the what you would say are the chalk picks.
Yeah, so 6 and 7 have kind of been the central of the drama. You had Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman, Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr. I don't think there's a clear-cut number 1 there. There are people in our league that think there are. I was okay with the picks from Will. Will took Ladd McConkey and Keon Coleman over Xavier Worthy and Brian Thomas Jr. He had been zeroed in on Keon Coleman for months. That's the guy he likes. Ladd McConkey ended in a really good spot. Both, I think, were defensible picks. Other people didn't feel that way. I don't think it was egregious as the narrative has shaped up around it. I personally think I got the best NFL product at 9 out of the 4 at Brian Thomas Jr. And I think Adrian got the immediate best spot with Xavier Worthy at 8. So when you look through that lens, maybe Will took the, and personally, if you were to hold a gun to my head and ask my personal opinion, and I told Will this, I thought he took the 2 worst options of the 4, but I don't think the difference between the top 2 and bottom 2 were that big.
Well, Will, in my opinion, and I think he'd say this as well. He's took the 2 guys that have the least amount of competition. I mean, everyone left Buffalo, everyone left the Chargers, and so I mean, there's a real possibility that Ladd McConkey and Keon Coleman walk in, and by week 4, they are by far and away their team's wide receiver 1, where Xavier Worthy might have the most competition when you look at Kelsey, Rice eventually, and Hollywood Brown, not to mention the litany of other guys that Patrick Mahomes finds, in any given situation. And then Brian Thomas Jr., there's opportunity there, but Christian Kirk is there, Travis Etienne out of the backfield, and then Evan Ingram there as well, and they also have Gabe Davis. So the limited amount of competition, I think, was a big part for Will, who, because of what happened at 10, is ready to compete. He's mortgaged his future. No 25 first, no 26 first, no 27 first. And he took 4 players in the first round this year and put them on a team that he thinks is ready to be a playoff contender.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the way he's leaning. I liked pick 6 and 7 a whole lot more than I liked the trade at 10. I don't mind him trading for Jonathan Brooks. I think he paid a price that he didn't have to pay. I think he could have gotten away with even maybe a first or a second, and I think Mac still takes that, and I still think Mac wins that. Will has confidence in Jonathan Brooks, so we'll see if he pays off. I wanted Jonathan Brooks, but I didn't want him that bad.
Yeah, same here. I wanted Jonathan Brooks as well. Matter of fact, when I was trying to trade out of 5 to either you or Mac, Jonathan Brooks was a guy I was looking at drafting with one of those picks. But again, the Jonathan Brooks trade certainly isn't the worst trade in league history. It won't be the last bad trade made either. It happens. And sometimes during the draft, you make a move that maybe you wouldn't have made had you had more time to think about it. All right. So outside of the first round, what are some other picks that stick out to you, whether it be bad or good?
Okay, so I really I liked 11, 12, and 13 stacking up for me there, some trade backs. I got 2 running backs I really wanted. I've traded Blake Corum for other pieces, but I'm really high on Trey Benson. And I think A.D. Mitchell's ceiling is really high. So just kind of packaging those decisions together, I like that. I'm going to reach deep into the 3rd round, and Dallas's first of 3 picks. He had just late picks and dart throws, but Tyrone Tracy is a guy that could take over the Giants' backfield and could be a league winner. We're talking possibly Puka Nacua, just late dark horse league winner stuff from Tyrone Tracy. I think the potential's there. And so we'll see if that pays off. But as far as kind of like round 3 and after, I think Tyrone Tracy, I really like that. I like Javon Baker. He's got NFL stuff. A lot of people think he has better NFL stuff than Jalen Polk does. Although Jalen Polk will make the more immediate impact, they think Javon Baker will be the better long-term NFL player.
And then wrapping up the draft talk, we can't end it without talking about the fact that Adrian once again forfeited a draft pick. You know, if I had a nickel for every time Adrian has forfeited a draft pick, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's funny that it happened twice.
Yeah, so someone pointed out to me that I upgraded him from lowercase forfeit in 2022, I believe it was, and he got all caps forfeit in 2024. It's great. Love it. Love Adrian giving us the little things in life.
Yeah. And that pick could have been Ty Chandler, Luke Musgrave, Cade Stover, Darren Waller, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, Bub Means. What a great name. But it was no one. And so I don't know. I mean, obviously he made a trade with Dallas late to acquire a couple picks, and he wasn't ready for it. So it is funny that it's happened to him twice. So after the draft, looking at John's draft grades. Obviously, props to John. He put a lot of effort into this. I mean, there are 3 scores that he gave it. He does a really good write-up. Sometimes it's a little bit too in-depth of a write-up. But with the drama aside, what was your reaction of your own draft grade and then other draft grades that stuck out to you?
This is the most props I've gotten from John on a draft ever. Anything rookie involved ever. We've come a long way from Brian Robinson Jr. Being the worst pick in the draft by far. And then, now he says, I had his favorite draft. Not that I'm vying for John's affection, but it's just funny we've come a long way. And so, yeah, I loved my draft, so I'm glad John's on board. And then I thought all the other draft grades were pretty on key. I thought Dallas got a lot of love for having 3 picks after round 3, but again, I love Tyrone Tracy. And then I obviously knew he was going to hammer the Kaleb Williams thing, because I'm pretty sure everybody in the league but John knew Ethan was taking Kaleb Williams. And John could not bring himself to believe it and was just befuddled when it happened.
Yeah, I expected it, so I wasn't that surprised by it. But I also like that John included all caps forfeit for Adrian. I love what I got. I mean, I can't lie that I feel good about his reaction. That's 2 years in a row I've had good drafts in John's opinion, and I mean, I loved my draft. I loved my draft last year, and feel good about my team. I was surprised because I never know what John's going to say, and it kind of segues me into the next point. I was also really shocked by how good of a power ranking spot I got in Tyler's power rankings, being picked fourth. I wasn't. I didn't think I'd be that high. It's been a long rebuild in my opinion. I hope it's over. But I still think there's a lot to see. I know this is why this portion right here is why I wanted you as my guest, because I think initially you were pretty upset about where you were put in this power rankings, but then as you continue to look at your team, maybe you aren't so surprised that you're this low.
Well, I'm surprised I'm last. I think I'm solidly the 8. I mean, I guess I could be last. I think there's a bottom 3 right now. And so that's, Ethan, Adrian, and myself. I'm a little bit surprised Ethan was above Adrian and myself, because I personally have Ethan's team as the 10 spot. I like Adrian has Bijan, and he has just some fiery pop to his team there. That, I mean, I guess you could say Etienne and Jonathan Taylor, but I can't love Ethan's team. I just don't. JSN has just been a disappointment. And I just think that my team is deeper than either one of those guys' teams. And so, I mean, I have, franchise quarterback, really solid young receivers. I've aged the receiving room down a lot. I've aged the running room down a lot. I mean, the team's very young. I think James Conner is really my oldest player. And so, I don't think I'm last. I could be wrong. I mean, I'm definitely, there's a better chance of me being in the lottery than a chance of me not being in the lottery, and that's fine. I've assembled the tools, and I think I'm approaching the rebuild the right way. But as always, my goal is to make the playoffs.
Yeah, Tyler and ESPN, I should say HQ and ESPN are pretty much on par with each other. Tyler went Evan, Mac, John, myself, himself, Will, and then he went is Dallas, Ethan, Adrian, and then you. Whereas ESPN has it Evan, Mac, John. Then they have Tyler, myself, Will, and then Dallas, Ethan, Adrian, and then you. So they have the same, just about the same, with the exception of Tyler and me being switched in each other. So not just him, but ESPN also believes that that's how the season will shake out. And I don't fault ESPN for it. I do fault Tyler for it. I think when you do power rankings prior to the season with what you think teams will do or can do during the season, I think you also have to take into effect the owner of the team. And the when you look at you're much more aggressive in making the playoffs than I think Adrian and Ethan will be. And I think that discounts them. And then you look at what you have to move to be better versus what Dallas has to move to be better. You definitely have the capital to make yourself a better team. Adrian has maybe Bijan, but he's not moving Bijan. Mike Evans to a contender. Ethan obviously has Jonathan Taylor that he could move, and Dallas has Saquon Barkley. But aggressiveness of the league owner plus capital, I think, should go into effect when you're looking at power rankings this early in the season.
Yeah, I agree. I also didn't agree with Evan over Mac. I think Mac has better depth. Evan has maybe the slightly better starting lineup, but I mean, I think Mac has more bullets to shoot out of the gun. I actually have you as the third best team in the league right now, and his was written up after our trade, the post Kyron Williams trade. I think you have two really good running backs, a good young team around. So I have you as the third best team just because you have a lot of depth, and I think that goes a long ways. I have kind of John and Tyler in the category of, like, they're 4 and 5, and it's going to be whichever one stays healthy is going to do better. Whichever one, if one sustains lots of injuries, they could be sitting right in the lottery with us. And so there's not a lot of depth. I have Will at the 6, and I'm just, like, really firmly at the 6th spot. I like Will's team. I like Will's potential. I think he's done a good job building this team up after tearing it down, after taking it over. He's really never had a good team. He's always kind of been the cellar dweller. I definitely don't think that's going to be the case. I have Dallas kind of in that 7th spot, but I just, like, of all teams, I really don't like it. I don't like Dallas' team. I just don't think there's a lot there. I think after trading Mixon, he's trending a direction, and it's not a champion, like a win-now direction, which is fine. He has his championship. He can start kind of putting pieces together to win another one, but I just don't think the pieces are there for that to happen this year. And then I've already said 8, 9, and 10.
So looking at, I think strategy, when you look at strategy with how some of these teams have been built. Well, first, before I get into that, I do want to talk about what you said. I like what you said about Evan and Mac. I have been Team Evan for a while. I think Evan has the bigger gun when you look at Tyreek Hill, Gibbs and Hall, Jalen and Lamar, Sam Laporta, but Mac has more bullets. When you look at what he has depth-wise coming off his bench, I mean, he has guys on his bench currently that are better than what Evan has in his flex spot. So just, at the end of the day, when you look at those two people, if Evan gets the wrong couple of injuries, Mac can fight through. I mean, Mac's going to have a Rashee Rice suspension, but that just means right now he'll just plug in Brandon Ayuk, who some people think is a top 10 wide receiver this year, especially if Debo gets traded.
Yeah, and then Mac lands, just bass backwards into an Ezekiel Elliott RB1 position again. So, I mean, Adrian, we hate you.
That was so long ago. The other thing I was going to talk about, so two teams, and they're both kind of middle of the pack this year, I think, with one having better players and a certainly better future with stock. Two teams have never picked in the first round of any of our dynasty rookie drafts. Can you name those two?
Well, Tyler.
Yes.
And probably Dallas.
Yes, Tyler and Dallas have never picked in the first round, and Dallas has only picked in the second round twice. He took Chuba Hubbard in the second round our first year, and he took Michael Mayer in the second round last year, 2 years, 2023. So his two first-round picks, or second-round picks, I should say, have both seen significant changes. Chuba's not even on his team anymore, and Michael Mayer now has to compete with Brock Bowers. And so Dallas has a lot of uncertainty, I think, with his team, and he doesn't have the pieces like Tyler does to reload his team. Because when you look at Dallas's roster, players to move, obviously Saquon Barkley, and then T. Higgins, Mark Andrews, all three players I think someone would buy right now. Then you have to hope that Cooper Kupp has a really great start to the season and stays healthy, and then maybe a competitor that has suffered, maybe like an Evan who has suffered an injury. But the other issue with our league right now is all the assets are on like two teams. So you have a very limited supply to try to rebuild if you choose to rebuild, which is, I go back and forth on my decision to rebuild a lot. I'm glad I chose to do it when I did, because I was at the forefront of the scramble to rebuild. I mean, I literally was the first person to do massive sell-off to try to rebuild, and now you look at what, I did it, then Will followed suit. Now you've kind of done a similar thing where you've loaded up on draft picks. Tyler has done something a little similar while still keeping some really talented pieces. So I regret how I went about it to start, but I'm glad I did it when I did, and instead of trying to do it right now where you're looking at two teams with, 8 of the 10 first-round picks next year?
Yeah. It's Mac and Ethan are the only people, not named me and Tyler, that own a first-round pick next year. I was thinking, I was shuffling through some stuff earlier today or yesterday, and I think we're going to see a situation where Tyler's going to be the seller and Dallas is going to be the buyer.
Of picks, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, like Tyler's going to be selling his picks, and they're going to go to Dallas while Tyler tries to get, Saquon or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on. Saquon, Cup, if he's playing well, T. Higgins, Higgins is an interesting one because if he gets traded, his value, depending on where he goes up tremendously. But until he moves teams, I think his value is kind of set right where it is, and it's not really changing. Would you trade? Let's say, let me look here. Would you trade Adrian's first if you're Tyler for T. Higgins?
No, but maybe for Barkley if he gets in a tied up spot. I wouldn't trade Adrian's first unless it's a really good player. I think of the first round picks, that's the one Tyler needs to clinch onto, and he knows that. I think Dallas's objective, if he's going to go that route, is to get his own first back, so you control your own destiny.
Yeah, that would be the one I would want back the most if I'm Dallas, and that's if I'm Tyler trying to sell that pick to Dallas, that's the one that I try the hardest not to let go of because of the whole control your own destiny thing. I think that makes the pick a little bit more valuable than maybe where it would be if it wasn't Dallas trying to get his own pick.
Yeah, I agree.
So, all right, well, anything else league-related before we wrap up the first episode? Probably going to be the longest episode that we have because we have so much to catch up on. But I think next episode I'm going to try to see if I can nail down a time to talk with Mac about his team preview for the season. But anything else before we wrap up this episode?
No, I think I don't think we have the Stellar Dweller this year like we've had in the past. And that was intentional by Will, and I think he's done a good job. I think you and Will have both we've seen kind of the process throughout for the first time in the league's lifespan play out on a rebuild for both these teams, and this year will be interesting to see what the fruit of planting those trees are. I think yours will be a little better this year, but Will got a lot of years ahead of him, I think, with a lot of young talent. And so it's just fascinating to me. We're hitting year 5, and we're just starting to see kind of a dynasty lifespan emerge. We've got a true dynasty franchise that everybody's chasing in Mac, and then you have Evans, recently emerged, back-to-back runner-ups, and then we just kind of have, people chasing their first kind of Office Dynasty League success or playoff win if you're Tyler. And then we have some rebuild cycles coming back around. So it's an interesting and fun time in the league. I'm
also chasing my first ever playoff win. I still have not yet.
Yeah, but you haven't been actively pursuing playoff victories for the past 3 years.
No.
That's what makes it.
No. So, the thing I will leave us with in closing is we have to figure out as a league how to come together and make some changes when it comes to rules. And I'm not saying we have to throw caution to the wind and change a bunch of things, because I realize it changes strategy. But when you're in a dynasty league, especially a healthy one that lasts for a really long time, you have to make changes. I mean, think about leagues that were created 10 years ago that at some point had to go, okay, we have to switch from standard format to PPR, or we have to drop our kickers and our defenses because it's just not the way Dynasty needs to be played. I mean, changes have to happen, and I think as a league we have to figure out how we can facilitate that and make that happen, especially with how strict our league rules are when it comes to the amount of votes that need to pass rules.
Yeah, I agree. Rules discussions are always fun. That could be a whole nother pod.
Yes, it could. So, all right, thanks, Kaleb, for joining me for our first episode back. I look forward to a full year of Dynasty pod episodes, and I'm excited to see these team breakdowns and hear each manager defend their team, why they're doing what they're doing, what their expectations are, and it'll be fun to talk to the defending champ in the next episode.
All right, go Thoughts.
Always go Thoughts. Go Thoughts.